Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Mystery Science Theater 3000, episode 1313, The Christmas Dragon. I think if there was ever a Spider-Man No Way Home episode of Mystery Science Theater, it was this one. This is a big one. You had the riff-off or riffle-on or whatever it is of three different hosts together. Is the first time we've had this many hosts together in one episode. You have Joel, Jonah, and Emily together. And I was wondering what this episode would be like, because that's not sort of what a normal Mystery Science Theater episode is. A normal Mystery Science Theater episode is one host and two bots. And like, how are they going to do that? Are they all three going to be in there? Which bots? So forth and so on. So here's basically how it worked. There's four basically segments of a Mystery Science Theater episode. The first one, at least it was the first one, with Emily, then her bots went to Joel. So then it was Joel and her bots, and then Jonah and his crew. And then the last segment was all three hosts. Overall, I think this mostly worked. In fact, the riffing and the movie probably took more of my attention than any of the segments. And the segments were more about like, them talking to their bots, were a little more simpler. Not as many like crazy skits, because this episode had a lot going on. So I sort of understand that. Because they'd have to be sucked up and go to the next thing and stuff like that. So it's sort of, it makes sense the way it was in this. They did have a 3-person invention exchange, which I forget everyone's inventions except for Emily's, because she had a cinder block, and that was really funny. In terms of doing that, I thought it was an interesting experiment, and probably of the, we've had a lot of changes this season in Mystery Science Theater. We've had a new host with Emily. We've had Joel coming back to it. And it's like, how do you adapt sort of to that? What's the riffing style now? We had J. Ellis Weinstein come back, things like that, and felt like major events. But this felt like, I think, the one that felt the most special, that really hit. I think this is a fine, good episode. I don't think it's like a new peak. The Christmas Dragon isn't sort of, I think it's bad. It's not a good movie. I don't think it's like maybe bad enough. Like, I feel like it should be worse, but it also has very little to do with Christmas. Like, I kind of think, like, for the people who want more of a bad fantasy film, like, this feels like what a bad fantasy film from the 80s would be now, but like, people give less of a shit at those things now, and like, very little Christmas. I mean, there is Christmas stuff, and I guess he's a Christmas dragon. The dragon Christmas part doesn't really work, to be honest. It's just like Santa. Anyway, it's and there's a Jack Sparrow in there. It is not a good movie. I'm not going to act like it's like one of the better ones. It is bad, but it is probably the least Christmassy episode they've ever done. Yeah, I would say based on the other three. I am a little disappointed for Emily, because I feel like she should, if the next season happens and she is the host, I'm not sure what's going on there. I would like her to have her own Christmas special, because this is the fourth one, and I would not call it her Christmas special. I would just say it's a Christmas special she was involved with, the same way Joel, Mike, and Jonah got their own Christmas specials with their crew and all that stuff. But as far as the riffing, I will say the opening Emily segment was like on par for her. I'll put it that way. Joel's was probably the funniest riff he's done this season, bar none. Like, I thought it was way better. And then Jonah's was pretty solidly kind of Jonah material. I was like, I kind of feel like at this point, like, he knows what he's doing and he'll do a good job, and he did, and all that stuff. With the switching, I thought, like, I know it's just a show and I should just relax, but my one sort of issue, and since we're gonna get rid of the segments and just make it like, this person's this, like, were they all watching the movie? Because it felt like I wish when Joel had showed up, we would be like, so what's happening? And like, had questions about it. I thought that would have been funnier, frankly, or at least some acknowledgement, and like, the bots have to like sum up what happened in a bad way or something like that. Especially, and that from Emily to Joel, it was like some of the same people, sure, but then when you get to Jonah, like, it would have been funny if they were just confused. But they did, like, it felt like they just kept the jokes consistent. So like, even though you're seeing, like, at certain points, like, not even the same people, you're not even seeing some of the same people say some of the same reoccurring jokes, like the Dennis the Menace kind of kid who, like, everyone likes. Like, everyone kept making that joke, but like, how would they have witnessed that joke because they weren't there. I know I'm being a little too serious about it, but I wish they had like kind of played with that. I feel like that's like a comedic thing that you can totally do, and it would have been funny, but they didn't do that. So I do think like if you're going to pick an episode, I know like Munchie and there's certain ones, this is one you're definitely going to want to watch because of having the sort of different thing in it, and I totally get that. I think it is overall worth it, but I think it is just a solid, good episode. Oh, we have them all three together. That really worked. They have great chemistry together, the three hosts. And Emily like making that sleigh joke with Greg was absolutely hilarious. And I thought she really brought it when she was with the three of them. It was interesting. She was in the middle. I wasn't sure how it was going to work out there. But I forget who's on the other side. Maybe it's like a crow thing. I don't really know which way they're facing. This is a solid, good episode. It is, I think in terms of lore and stuff, it is like heavy on that, but hey, we can have some of those. And I like that we got Growler and M. Waverly. We got everything in this one. And it's sort of like one of those episodes that feels like sort of the end or like what's going to happen. I won't go too much into that. This movie was... it's pretty bad. They made this movie a lot more fun than it had any right to be, with the riffs, with the Dennis the Menace stuff, with the weird Jack Sparrow character, with all their like bringing up that it's a Christmas movie when it's very much not a Christmas movie sort of things. They gave this movie new life. But honestly, the overwhelming idea of three hosts kind of makes you just think of that a lot. So yeah. That at least for me. But I really did quite enjoy this episode. In terms of Christmas episodes, I almost want to say I think I like this more than the last one, the Christmas that almost wasn't. I do think it's a lot funnier than that one. I don't think you can go against Santa Claus or Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. But it is a solid episode. It's a solid episode of Mystery Science Theater. And one of those solid episodes where you want to put it on because of everyone who's there and you won't be disappointed, but it's not one... I don't think it's one you'll be quoting or be laughing and like talking about the deep hurting stuff. It's one you'll talk about with your friends about lore and like want to see and stuff like that. This wasn't like, in terms of like Mitchell was kind of the best of both worlds where you get an amazing episode. And same with Laser Blast, Danger with Danger, Diablock as well. But I think those, like, you had an amazing movie, an amazing riff, and you got huge lore in there. And I think this maybe the lore stuff kind of overpowered it a bit, but I was like sort of happy with it. So I like this episode a lot. It's not my favorite of the season, but it's one I'm going to think about a lot because of those three. And I will say, I of the newer movies that they selected, this is probably of like the 2000s movies, was this and Demon Squad and maybe something. Yeah, I would say this is probably the more memorable one because there was like, what the fuck was it's such a mess of a movie, and they definitely brought us through. And it was also cool, like seeing like at the end credits, seeing like Crow played by two people, and seeing the bots interact, and seeing like all these things. It's just like things you never thought would happening. I think it's kind of emblematic of the season as a whole, because this season is more of like they're doing these kind of stunt things. They're like having two different hosts or three different hosts, like two, Jonah continuing, Emily coming in, and Joel coming back. So like there's like, it always felt like there was events with this season, which I really liked. I mean, I think any new episode is an event. They made it an extra event. I think like of any season, if you're going to finish it off in a certain way, it sort of makes sense to do it in this way. It's like the perfect summation of all of it, of having the ultimate Mystery Science Theater event. If you're going to make this season, it was all about these events, this big fan of things we never thought would happen in this way. We never thought we'd have a season that like makes you want to go, oh, who's it going to be this time? What's going to be? It felt like more suspense, and to have like the ultimate conclusion of them together worked perfectly. I think I do probably like Christmas. Maybe I'm being too harsh on it. I just don't think it, in terms of the overall scope of the show, I don't think this isn't a movie necessarily I'm going to be quoting, except for the kid who like everyone likes, they keep making fun of, and like some of the like the Emily Slay joke was pretty great and things like that. But it wasn't, it won't go down as the best episode of the season, certainly, but it will go down as probably, I think, a very memorable and pretty substantial episode, and ending, the first Gizmoplex season in this way feels like kind of like an epic triumph. Will they ever top it or anything. Who cares? But I had a good time. I think getting to this peak with all these Mystery Science Theater events was a peak I'm happy to be at. And I think if you are excited by 3 hosts and 1 Mystery Science Theater thing, and curious how that would work and what that's like, it's a solid enough of a thing that you'll be happy with the peak of the event that it all is. So if you have seen Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode 1313, The Christmas Dragon, and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe if you would like to.